Most people in life are looking for how do I make a life worth living and retirement worth having. When I record these audio casts, I don't usually put my mug in front of the video. Part of it is because I probably have not a brushed beard, but that's not really it. That some asshole in the night decided to cut most of my pagan priest beard out. Anyone who still has my marketing materials posted in their restaurant or in their ice creamery is really appreciated by me. Anyone who has lied to themselves about taking it down and breaking our verbal agreement, well, that's on you in front of the Lord. You see, in life, what we see around town is that businesses are closing and loyalty is very important. The loyalty of customers is hugely important today. And the one thing I try to tell people in the trainings that I create is that every day we have the right to make a customer. And every day we actually have customers. You see, I've known about McDonald's my entire life. That makes me a lifelong customer. Over the last few years, I've eaten quite a lot of McDonald's food because I can afford it. And openly, it's not exactly perfect for my cellular health, but it does keep me fit as a fiddle. I'm not one of those who's building up a lot of bulk. I'm simply trimming down by eating selectively what the Lord suggests based on what's going on in the kitchen and who's doing what in the kitchen that only the Holy Ghost can tell, not me. I just listen to the God in heaven saying, I think you need to eat chicken today, or maybe you should have fish today, or maybe you should have a hamburger today. And when we hear those little loving prompts, we should follow along. I also have a gift of spirit, and I can literally do a lot of things. But when I find something in the middle of a parking lot, I always have to say to the Lord, is this something for me that you want for me, or is this something really for someone else? And that's the truth. In life, we have moments of time to talk about what is real and talk about how we feel. But when we don't talk about what is real with people, they sometimes let their feelings get in the way of truth, of productivity, and of actually quality assurance procedures that safeguard their actual positions in the world. When we think that we're on top of things, sometimes people can play in and think, oh, they're not ready to go. That's not true. In life, if you know someone, you walk up to them and say, hey, I know you. Let's talk. Or, hey, I came for you. Let's talk about that. But the truth is, in life, when the Lord makes a promise and you fail to deliver it, that is on your life with the Lord. Your sin is your sin. My sin is my sin. But in a pagan house, people are often forgiven. But we're not forgotten about. You see, today, I had a very awkward experience in that a loving church provided me some food. Some of it was gluten-free, which was fine, but it was not what I typically eat. So while I appreciated them remembering me being gluten-free, it didn't really help me today. It actually was sort of a sadness because another family could have utilized it better than me. They also provided me some beautiful fruit, which sadly I don't ever eat. It's not a matter of preference, it's a matter of my palate doesn't stomach the acidity of that food very well. And when you live outdoors in nature, it means when nature calls, it's a little awkward to have to deal with that sort of processing in your biological system if you have a sensitive stomach. So when I tell people what I can and can't eat, I'm very specific. And at age 51, I have the right to communicate what my preferences are so that you don't waste money and I don't waste time. It takes time to get to a place to meet someone. It also takes time to talk to someone a few minutes so that they don't miss out on loving kindnesses that might be in a box or that might be able to be given back to a pantry to say, look, I'm allergic to that. I really can't utilize that. Now, yes, it is true I can provide food to other people who are homeless or indigent that I run into. But so far, most of the ones I have met are somewhat liars by far. They are professional panhandlers and they're not trying to get work. They literally sit on a street corner and they sort of act like a jerk. I have one in particular that is constantly insulting me, constantly threatening me. I don't even know this man, but he's friends with someone who I used to regard. This morning I was put in an awkward position at the Meijer store. I was literally seated behind the Meijer store, somewhat near the Penn Station, because the loving folks at Ryan's and I think decided to move their picnic table into a different area where there's some shade, there's some canopy, there's some relief from a hot day's work, or just a little peace and quiet when they need to take their lunch break or when they need to take their smoke break, and that's okay. But while I was seated there, a man came up. I had just opened the beautiful packages of food that I had gotten, and I was eating amazing salad, which I almost never get a chance to eat, with a wonderful green goddess sort of dressing and enjoying the bacon, and everything was actually perfect for me. And another package of apples, which I never get a chance to eat, and little bits of cheese, which I really needed for my protein. But I have told them I am sort of protein intolerant. Some people in the community do not know what protein is. Protein is usually meats, red meats, and cheeses, and frankly, chicken. Salmon is sometimes considered a protein, sure. Tuna is also, but I don't have the ability to process that anymore. When I was a child, I would love to eat my father's tuna fish sandwiches. He knew exactly precisely how to make them, and I still make them like that today, but I do that to help bulk up the sandwich, but also to help me prevent myself from having a problem with the internal allergy to it. What my late father would do as a recipe for you is to literally add some hard-boiled eggs, add some cut up apples, and sometimes some celery to a mayonnaise-laden, not very often because my mother was so anal about us having mayonnaise, but usually she used a Hellmann's, a real mayonnaise, a egg-based mayonnaise, and we had that on our trips. I would love that when we travel. My dad would always make that, and he had these perfect little boxes that he'd keep them in. It was sort of an old Coleman lunch pail, and we loved that. And then he would bring beverages for us all, pass out the variety of cups that fit the entire family, and we literally would have these little 8-ounce juices from those canteens. I don't know who in my family got that set, but I was sort of jealous of that. I didn't get a lot from my family's estate. My sisters literally depleted almost everything in my mother's and father's family house before they moved out to more independent living, and then dependent living, and then assisted living in the case of my father. But when I tell the story, I'm only telling it to you because you too probably have parents that are elderly. You too probably have responsibilities to them, and you too probably need to know what is what in the world. When we leave our family in the care of others, we always have the risk of theft from the people who are paid only $10 an hour to look after our family. There's always a risk of a ring. There's always a risk of something going missing. My mother bought so many pairs of socks and so many pairs of underwear for my father when he was in assisted living, it wasn't even funny. And that happened no matter where he was placed. They always went missing if they did the laundry. And they would say, sorry, can't find him, despite the fact that she would print his name and everything. You see, there are people in this land that just feel that they are entitled to take things. And in the middle of the night, someone took some jewelry fabs for me. They took a little Indian one that I had made that was sort of beautiful. They've taken actually a gold chain and a silver chain off me, and they took black chain off of me too, but they put that back. I think they got the boy who did that. But the truth is that we have to decide what kind of a society we're going to be. Are we going to be a society that says live and let live, or are we going to be a society that screws people out of their love lives? You see, the one who's supposed to come for me tonight better fucking get here, or her family could be at risk. I'm not in charge of that. The Lord has made promises, and when people don't deliver on the promises that God makes through them, there's a real problem. Now, let's talk about the scene. The scene of our life is the scene of our life. The scene of your life is the scene of your life. The scene of my life is the scene I choose to play in. But when you try to put me in a play, you are foolish as all get out. Today I was telling the story about being sitting down eating a beautiful green goddess salad with everything on it that was absolutely stunningly perfect for me, and having to figure out what I was going to do with the fruit that it wasn't perfect for me, that I have somewhat allergies to in terms of the acidity of it, and that I cannot process in the middle of the night because there's no toilet for me out here in the nightlife. So when I'm talking about this, I chose a woman to give it to because she is loving and kind, and she had fed me the day before. She is also sort of a person of impoverished background, and openly she has a child with special needs. So I chose to deliver those pieces and the pieces that would need to be cooked on a stove to her family, because I can't cook pancakes. What am I supposed to cook them in? I don't have a stove, I don't have an oven, and I certainly don't have a fire anywhere around here that I can do a campfire to. So when we're talking about life in the streets, we have to talk about it for real. But as I was sitting there, a mensch of a person in the community who's sort of kind to me and sort of an ass to me and sort of plays with me came up and with a very large black man sat down. They started to design themselves into some sort of a trade, which I did not want to be a part of at all. I told the gentleman who sat down that he was welcome at the table, but I'm allergic to smoke. He chose not to smoke, and I said, no, it's no problem. I can pick myself up because God was saying it's time to leave and go sit somewhere else. And then he said, oh, no, it's a problem. And then Jesus said, no, I want you to stay a little longer. And when he did that was to teach me a little bit of the lesson of the streets, that little mensch thought he would talk about me to people, and the black man said to me if I ever needed anything, that he would certainly help me. And I thought, okay, I'm being put in a place somehow of being bought, sold, or told that I don't have the right to be as old as I am. I was livid with that young man this afternoon. He's 38 years old and plays as though his mother is still in some sort of rehab or whatever. Wonderful. Then why doesn't he still have her house? You see, you can't play with someone and pretend to be a mouse and then stand tall and expect someone to regard you. I didn't like how he was handling it. He literally refused to sit at the table with us. He implied that the large black man was the man to know, and I thought, great, but I don't need to be participating in any dough that you're exchanging with him, and I don't want to know about your drug trade or anything else that you're trading to get the money for your life. I did not ask for this, I don't want it, and I don't want to be a part of it. But there's always some liar of the land that wants to imply that I know them. I've had several people actually walk up and say my first name as a nickname, and I wonder who the hell told them that. I've only given that name one time in my life in the streets, and I've never given it to anyone else. Now when I record and I've got earbuds in my ears, I might be talking too loud and people might be able to hear, but that's not the point, that I can rhyme in any time, and I openly usually do that, and it's sort of like a rap, but I'm not very good at that. My late son loved Tupac Shakur, and I did too, but we played it in the house, and that was fine. But when an old man is saying, this is my life, stay out of my life, stay out of my property, stop stealing from me, he has a right to do that. Now the scene in your house is what belongs to you. What exactly belongs to you? What property belongs in your purse? What property belongs in your wallet? What property belongs in your pockets? What property do you always carry with you? What property do you have in your house? And what property do you take when you travel? Do not those things have a privacy to them? Do not those things have an opportunity to them? Do not those things have the rights to be known only to you or to your loved ones? And do those things not only have the right to you? You see, in my life in the streets, there are immoral, illegal people who think they have the right to look through my things if I fall asleep. And that is the lie they tell themselves. That is the life of an adolescent mind who parades through the streets, probably with things that were mine. But openly, I will never know because they lie about who they know. Now, in life, we have moments of time to paint a scene, and the scene is quite simple. When I tell my life story, what I want you to really do is to think about your life. What if someone hit you with cybercrime? What if someone took your identity on? What if someone walked through the streets carrying your business cards, pretending to be you, handing them out as if they were you, and lying about their right to do so? And openly, that is the problem that I'm facing. That someone thought they'd pretend to be me, and openly took those cards right out of my pack. They were inside a bag, inside a box, underneath a bunch of things that I stack up every night before I fall to sleep. At the same time, a pendulum that I gifted to a woman who gifted me a sandwich at a local restaurant where I practically frequent when I have some pocket change. They were very loving and kind when I was really struggling, and I always tried to produce my loyalty to them because of the kindness of a young man who saw my poverty, understood the problem, knew what he could do within the rules of his organization, and helped me. Sometimes it was way too much food, but that's okay. He was loving and kind, and they were going to throw it away anyway. My point to you, though, is that that woman decided she didn't like what the Lord asked me to gift her, because God said very specifically, I want you to look at both of these items very closely of what you've made, and then I want you to give her the little one for the trade. And when I did that, it was exactly the right balance of a pendulum, or what I call a faith fob that I make. And what ended up happening was when I went into my pack today to check over what I had left to play with, what I had left to gift to people who support my ministry, who do things just like a large company, just like a large organization, just like a Joel Osteen or a Joyce Meyer that sends something if you provide them something, that openly what I found was that my pendulum that I had made for that woman at that restaurant had been modified, and she had taken, must have been her, because I only had one of the small trees and I had a large tree, and that large tree is now missing from my pack, and the small tree is now put on something in my bag. The life of a man is his, but the life of your life is yours. So when you think that you have rights to your life, make sure they're your life. When you have rights to someone else's life, it usually means that you are a lover or a very close friend, or one that is intended to be for them. So let's be really clear. I have made a choice to stay away from my family for several reasons: to protect my late mother's estate, to protect my siblings for their stupidity about federal law, and to protect openly those that I love from the monsters in the hall. You see, you can't have a person lie, but you can have a person gossip and ruin a life. And gossip ruined my privacy. Gossip impeded my right to get business cards printed at the Best Buy, and gossip has been impeding my life ever since I walked into this community. Thanks for listening.